Okay. Um, I'm just going to very quickly just do quick introductions. Again, I'm Bob Dwyer. I'm the have the privilege of being the chair of Bourne's Cable, Internet, and Telecommunications Advisory Committee to the Select Board. And as I said, Anne Marie Saronian is our sponsor, if you will, to the Select Board, and she's on virtually every meeting. Jed Johnson, who's retired from Motorola as a network engineer, is our vice chair. Wendy Howland is our clerk, and right now we are missing 3 folks. And when this gets going, I may start to text a few of them. In addition, we have John Frank, who's a retired television engineer, television and radio engineer. Let's see, Catherine Walton, who right now is a member of the planning board. And last, we have Brian McCarter, who many of you have heard on other conference calls, who's his background is in infrastructure bonding and finance. I'll leave it to David to introduce your team.
We also have Tony Contrino on the committee.
Oh, yes.
Tony is the executive director of Whip City Fiber.
Yes, thank you, Jed. I forgot him. I was just listening to people who were going to come. Wendy, if you, I would expect any of the first 3 to jump in at any time. And we're recording this, so they'll be able to hear this. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, Steve, and you can introduce your team and take it away. And I'm going to go on mute. Scream if you folks need me.
Excellent. So I'll start off with some introduction on our end, and then I'll have some slides I'll bring up to walk us through. So again, Stephen Tupper, Deputy Director of the Cape Cod Commission. I'm a civil engineer, so I'm not a broadband specialist, to make that clear, but I'm organizing the broadband activities at the Commission. There are a number of staff members working on broadband, and we also have some consulting support for a number of our projects to inform some of the more technical aspects of the work. So with me today is David Still. He's our digital communications specialist. So we'll be covering the second half of the presentation, walking through some of the data that we have, and also have Helene Goudreau with us today. She's a special projects coordinator and working on a number of projects, including our broadband and digital equity projects. As requested, I'll give a project overview of our digital equity work going on in the town of Bourne. I'm not going to get into it today, but certainly wanted to highlight that we have a parallel effort going on, a regional broadband needs assessment, and that's one where we're bringing on a consultant team to do that work. So certainly that's informing some of our work in Bourne, and happy to speak to that at the appropriate time, but we're really in the data gathering phase of that. So it'll be later in the calendar year in early 2024 when we be prepared to talk more formally about that process and have some results from that study. But with that, I'd like to bring up some slides here to walk through some highlights of the project we're working on here. Just give me 1 second. I want to make sure we're on the right slide to start off here. And I do want to add a little more context. Certainly happy to be here with the group today. We're doing a number of these sort of meetings throughout the community of Bourne, making sure that we hear from the people that are working in the space, have some insight in this space to make sure that we are well informed as we start to develop some draft plans. So what we're sharing today is very similar to what we've been sharing in one-on-one conversations with a number of groups, and certainly look for any feedback from this committee as we walk through this. So I do have a number of slides. I think in order to keep it organized, if you don't mind, I'll run through the slides and David will as well. Then we'll turn it back to the committee, and happy to answer any questions or get any insights that this committee has in the area. And apologies to those who have seen some of this before. I'll go quickly through some of the early slides, but I want to provide some of the context. And again, this group is probably more well-informed than some of the others that we've had in this space. But generally, we're here because of the funding opportunities, and we want to make sure that the town of Bourne and all of our Cape Cod communities have access to federal funding, which in large part is flowing through the state And then the first tranche of money that's coming out right now is to do the digital equity planning. So we're in the process of working on the digital equity plan for the town of Bourne at no cost to the town of Bourne, and we're certainly incorporating a number of stakeholders in the community. And so what are we intending to get out of this plan? Really having an overall understanding of the landscape of digital equity, preparing for future funding opportunities, and really thinking about equitable implementation of some of the programs that will be coming in the future. Again, this group is probably fairly well versed, although maybe more so focused on the first element of digital equity here. But broadly, digital equity as we see it and as has been defined by the state and the federal government involves internet connectivity, affordable, reliable, and fast, but also goes into the areas of devices, making sure folks have the appropriate devices for their needs and have the appropriate digital literacy skills to be able to access the internet with confidence and safely. And then certainly as we get into the funding, it'll be important to understand what some of the funding opportunities are focused on. And the two pots of money that we'll be seeing next are really focused on certain covered populations. We've talked through what these mean in Bourne. You certainly have some high populations in certain areas, and we'll cover that later. But really a lot of the digital equity work has the bent on focusing on those covered populations that may have some acute challenges in digital equity. So what will the plan look like when it gets put together? Early material will lay out the overall context that we're working in digital equity in the town of Bourne. We'll detail the engagement process, and then we'll ultimately have some objectives and implementation strategies for whatever is identified as needs within the town of Bourne. So certainly some of those will relate to things you guys are working on currently. Some of those will be in different areas, working with some of the other community organizations. I did want to pause on the role of the project team and staff. Certainly, you guys are well organized in this space, so it's been very helpful to have that formal communication and input from this group. But just to be clear about roles, we manage the project and we'll be collecting information and putting together a draft plan. We don't have a horse in the race, if you will. We're really just coordinating and putting everything together on behalf of the town of Bourne. So we've been frequently communicating with town leadership on this, and ultimately the decision making will happen on the town side, and we're just preparing the plan for the town. Certainly an important part of that is broadly engaging the community. Certainly conversations like this are important. Also making sure that we connect with individuals. So we're doing that in a variety of ways that we'll touch on in a couple of slides. But just wanted to highlight the different roles in terms of the development of this project. In terms of overall timeline, going from left to right as we're walking through this project, the orange dots have been completed or currently underway. So we started with municipal coordination early in the summer. We worked on existing conditions data collection, and also a number of asset mapping and stakeholder outreach events. Stakeholder outreach activities I'll touch on in more detail. And we've also had a working group, including a couple members from the committee here to prepare for the workshop. And certainly we'll say this a few times, but the workshop is the signature event, although not the only way to provide input in this process. So we're gearing up and certainly look for your support for the community workshop on November 13th, ultimately leading to a development of a plan in early 2024. In terms of community outreach strategies, I could talk for 10 minutes alone on this, but I'll just give you some of the high points. Certainly, I know this group and others in town have been helping distribute the MBI Digital Equity Survey. So we have some good representation in terms of overall numbers from Bourne. Certainly, certain segments of the populations are not well represented, but we're working on that. One thing to highlight here is the survey is online. We do know there's a need for paper surveys. I mean, we've been bringing them to some locations in Bourne where we think that might be helpful, where there may be individuals who would like to participate in that way. So working to try to get that out as well as we can. We've been doing a number of community pop-up locations, really whenever there's that opportunity for direct engagement, including participating in the Bourne Public Schools Community Resource Fair late in September, and have a couple of other opportunities coming up with pop-ups at the library and Council on Aging, where we can kind of have that one-on-one interaction and also have those paper surveys on hand in the event that someone might want to fill out the survey in that format. We've also had a number of one-on-one conversations, either completed or scheduled. So we've directly talked to the library, Upper Cape Tech, Bourne Public Schools, Mass Maritime coming up soon, folks from Joint Base Cape Cod, as well as looking to talk soon with the Housing Authority. So trying to talk with a lot of different community organizations, kind of meeting them where they're at and understanding what they're doing in the space of digital equity, and what sort of resources they might need going forward. At each of these meetings, we're certainly highlighting the importance of the workshop. To the extent that these organizations can be represented at the workshop, that would be great. If it doesn't work, we want to make sure we at least understand their needs and incorporate it into the plan that way. So again, a number of ways to engage in this process. So to focus a little bit on that community workshop, again, November 13th, it'll be an interactive workshop format. We'll be talking through some of the background material we're going into today, but then have some more specific conversations with everyone there to make sure that we can get whatever information we can about the barriers and opportunities that they are facing or they're aware of broadly within the community, and do some brainstorming in terms of overall goals and looking at what does success mean in this space for the individuals that are at the workshop. Definitely want to pause on this slide because this is a space where I definitely see your committee being really important, and that's getting word out about the workshop. And to assist with that, we've put together a web page, and we can send the direct link to you guys after with a communications toolkit. So it has all the different materials that you would need to help publicize this information. We have graphics that are fit for social media. We have language to accompany those graphics. We have flyers if there's something that want to be printed out. Basically the same sort of information in a variety of formats for whatever way we can push this out. We're already doing a good amount of that with ourselves. For example, we put together slides to share with Bourne Community TV when they run their rotation of upcoming events. We'll be pushing it out a number of different ways, but we'll circle back on this later. But this is certainly a place where I would love to work collaboratively with the committee to get word out on the event. So just to kind of close on what I see as some cooperative roles with the committee, certainly continuing to push out that online survey, as well as if you have places where you'd love to see a paper survey, we can drop off more at town hall or a convenient location to make sure those get out. Helping spread word for the community workshop using the communications toolkit that we developed, and then any direct feedback either from this committee today or others that you think should be part of the conversation. Certainly happy to have those discussions to make sure we're well informed as we developed the plan. So that was kind of quickly to bring all the members up to speed of where we are in the process. Thought it might be good to highlight in brief some of the existing conditions data that we have, some of the things that we're seeing already with data within the town of Bourne. And then certainly you guys have been in the weeds working on some of this, so look for any feedback from the committee. But with that, I'll turn it over to David to go through the next few slides.
Thank you, Steve. And as Steve said, there are things that we can understand about the town of Bourne through the data. What we need is someone to validate kind of what we're seeing within the numbers. And there are things that we can't know. I don't live in the town of Bourne. I grew up in the town of Barnstable. I know we have 7 villages. I can tell you what each of those villages kind of is. You have a flavor for that. I don't really have that feel within the town of Bourne. So that's the kind of feedback we're looking for to kind of help validate the data. Does this look like your town? Does this look like the individual villages? You could roll to the next slide. We have taken a look at quite a bit of data. Some of them come in at different geographic levels. And we've tried to get as granular as we can, but also have it be kind of a common data set looking at the same levels. Majority of the information comes from the American Community Survey, or ACS. We use the 5-year estimates on that, kind of smooths out the bumps. 2021 is the first set that incorporates not only the 2020 census, but some of the post-pandemic influences on all of that information. The 2020 census is pretty important. All towns, with one exception, that'd be Sandwich, saw an increase in population and generally an increase in diversity as a result of that. So we want to be able to make sure that as we review the covered populations, whether for race and ethnicity, age, or disability, all of those are reflected to the higher population numbers and that added diversity. Have looked at the 2020 census. The census data it kind of trails a little bit because of the pandemic. There were some weird things within the collection, and it's taken them time to validate the detailed tables. So we have a set of those. The further detailed tables will continue to roll out. I believe there's some that are due out next May, and there's, so to the extent that we can get 2020 census data, we'll use it and incorporate it. Center for Disease Control has a social vulnerability index, which takes a lot of this same information, but compiles it into kind of a single number. So you can compare down to the census block nationally, how that compares. Is it above? Is it below? We've taken a look at that. It's primarily for health purposes and health and vulnerability indicators there, but they do incorporate. They do believe that internet access is one of those indicators. So that's an interesting thing to look at, and it helps inform all of this. And then we've looked at other information, and to the extent that there is information on kind of network integrity or speed, things that tell us about the internet connections that are available. We've looked into that and tried to regionalize, focus it as finely as we can. So rather than talk census tracts, we have tried to associate the census tracts with your villages. And if you go to the next slide, so broadly speaking, there are 4 main census tracts within the town of Bourne, and then there's also Joint Base Cape Cod. You see a number for 797. It's actually 789 who are associated with the town of Bourne. Mashpee has 4 people associated with it. Sandwich has 4 people associated with it. But for demographic purposes, they're all included within this one census tract, and it's most appropriate that that attaches to Bourne. And what we can see here is there is the census tracts kind of follow your unique geography. You've got canal that runs down the middle. And so Buzzards Bay and Sagamore tend to look a little bit more like each other. And the tracks on this side of the bridge tend to look a little bit more like each other. You're pretty evenly split from a population standpoint, this side of the bridge to the other side of the bridge. But on the other side, the mainland side, they're younger, and they are slightly more diverse. And for when you look at the age, it kind of tracks for where you would expect to see a higher level of disability. So the older tracts tend to have a higher percentage of individuals with disability. And there are 3 of the tracks, including Joint Base Cape Cod. I think if you look at the pie chart there, the base does have a higher degree of diversity from a racial ethnic standpoint than the rest. I think that can be expected. They are also younger, which again makes a certain amount of sense. But they hit for 2 environmental justice considerations. And environmental justice is a federal designation that looks at race. It looks at English language isolation and income levels. But the two mainland sides tracks, they do qualify under income as well. So this starts to give an understanding of where the challenges might be. Most of Cape Cod, we overperform in the over 60 or the aging population category. And that tracks for I mean, a third over 60 is still, you know, high from a state standpoint. But the two mainland tracks tend to look a little bit more like the rest of Cape Cod. Overall, you are tied for second for the youngest town on the Cape. Sandwich is the youngest with a median age of 50, and you are tied with the town of Barnstable at 50.3 for your median age. And if you can go to the next slide. We did take a look at information that's related to the enrollment and the students within Bourne. There are two data sets here, and one can inform the other. So Bourne Public Schools, this is the total enrollment, regardless of where the students come from. Most public schools, there are choice districts where students from other towns may come in, and also there are some students within Bourne who may choose to go to other districts or take other go to school in other places. So for the race and other characteristics, that's for the enrolled Bourne population in total, regardless of where they are. But the enrolled number does look a lot like the number on the other side, which only looks at school-age children within the town of Bourne and the schools that they are attending. So you can see that the enrolled number at 1554 is close to the local public schools where town of Bourne students are going, at just a little over 1,500. So I think we can be pretty confident that these numbers will be reflective of Bourne students generally. But on the blue side, what that also says is that you've got about a quarter of your students attending other types of schools. Certainly, Upper Cape Tech would be within there. Charter schools attending other districts. So it's possible that you're seeing some diversity shifts as a result of where students are choosing to attend. So the white side is what we can say about students in Bourne, and the blue side is what we can say about all of the school-age children in the town of Bourne. But I think this gives it a pretty good overview, or it's going to get pretty close. It does track a little bit more diverse than the town as a whole, but that's also seen in other districts across the Cape. It's something that's been noted in studies for some of the lower Cape towns and outer Cape towns. So pretty consistent. You'll see that the low income number is highlighted because you have a third of students who qualify for as low income, which at this point was free and reduced lunch. That's now universal, but they'll have other standards going forward. If you go to the next slide. This is what we know from the FCC about internet service providers in the town of Bourne. You can see number one with a bullet is Xfinity. Their coverage is close to 90%, or close to 100%, and that is going to be the primary means of connection for most of the people in town. And the next one is copper, which is DSL. They don't get a rating because DSL does not meet the minimum broadband requirements of 25.3. That's the FCC standard. You have limited fiber to premises from Verizon with just over 12%. We'll find out if you have more is coming as a result of your letter. And satellite, everyone can see the sky, so they assume that there's 100% coverage for any of those. And same with fixed wireless. And fixed wireless is recognized as broadband service by MBI. And one of the things to note about the FCC information is that it's self-reported by the providers, and at their highest speeds that they market to the area. So the highest speeds that Comcast markets to the area is 1.2 gigs down and 35 megabits up. Whether people are achieving that or not, that, you know, your mileage may vary, and we have a little bit of information that that starts to lean into that and explain it. So if you go to the next slide.
On that slide, David, quick question. Where did the 10 meg for Verizon come from? The 10 meg down?
Megabits.
Yeah. So I guess the point I'm making, so I know it'll do 15 if you're close enough. I'm just curious as to where it came from.
These are the self-reported speeds.
Oh, really?
These are the self-reported speeds from the provider to the FCC. And they're provided on a block level to us, and these are the ones that they that pull out. So even if it can do 15, they're apparently not advertising it that way.
They don't want people to know because they'll ask for it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, they don't want to put pressure on their dying system. Perhaps dying. So the Microsoft data is interesting. It is getting a little dusty as it's from October of 2020, but these are clearly pandemic influenced speeds, even though they aren't within our peak season. So what Microsoft is able to do, because they push updates to Microsoft computers that are on a Microsoft platform, is that they can measure the speed that their updates are taken, and so they're able to see what people are experiencing versus what they may be paying for. And you can see that there are some differences from what the marketed speeds are from the FCC to what people are experiencing. And Microsoft was able to locate those on a zip code level, and that's what's reflected here. So, you know, Katomit, Picasset, you're the winners for lowest outside of Joint Base Cape Cod. But overall, you're not seeing a lot of speed within the connections that at least Microsoft was able to see at this one time. This does track with some of the other information that we're able to look at. And I will point out that this is at the FCC's 25.3 broadband standard. So if you start to think of broadband's future as 100 down, 20 up, the gap will only increase. And well, let just go on to the next slide, Steve. The Affordable Connectivity Program is a federal program that provides a discount on monthly subscriptions for eligible households. We did some calculating to try to figure out how many eligible households there would be. We used a poverty standard, but there's an array of ways people can qualify for ACP, whether if they have other federal benefits, SNAP or others. I can't recall at the moment. But we use poverty as the standard. There are about 2,100 eligible households in the town of Bourne as of September. You're at 26%, which was the highest on Cape. I have pulled these for the following month. It didn't look like they shift around a whole lot. At this point, they're not moving. The numbers are pretty stable. But it does show that there is capacity for more people within. Actually, these are the July numbers. There is capacity within the town to have more households receiving this benefit, and there is a one-time $100 device benefit as well for eligible households. So. The qualifying for the program to be determined as an eligible household, it's a multi-step process. It's not entirely easy for to do. I believe that the town of Bourne Schools has assisted families as well, or at least provided them the information and the verification that they would be eligible for the free and subsidized lunch standard. But whether or not the family then acts upon it, that's not for the schools to track. But it is a service that they have provided, which was good to hear. But as long as there is funding for ACP, the program will continue. And I believe that is my last data slide. It says thank you, so it must be. And happy to take questions on any of that.
Thank you very much, Steve, and also Steve. First, I'd like to just introduce you to Catherine Walton, who joined us, another member of our committee, who is also an elected member of the planning board in the town of Bourne. Okay.
I have a quick question. I understand that a lot of the statistics are self-reported by the ISPs, but how do they comport with the speed tests that we've been trying to get people to send you?
The speeds test, they register lower than what the self-reported speeds are. We haven't seen the full report on those. That's being collected by our consultant, and they're in the process of processing those.
Any idea when those might be processed?
Steve?
We'll likely be sharing them later this calendar year is when it is in our scope.
One interesting data point I heard on a technology council call yesterday is that Ookla keeps complete statistics on anybody anywhere who's used their speed test. And that those data are available. And I don't know at what level of aggregation. Steve Smith thought that they were relatively large scale and year long, but it might be worthwhile to look into seeing what they have available. He thought that there was at least a calendar year that went up from mid 22 to mid 23. So that's one other interesting data point for some statistics already out there in the public domain.
MBI did provide us with a year's worth of aggregated Ookla data, and so we do have that available, which does provide. It's aggregated over. It's from December of 21 to November of 22. and it's not temporal, so that we don't know, we can't see it change seasonally. It's just the aggregated tests through that period of time, but they are pretty well geolocated as well. And there are some there's information to be learned there as well.
How granular is their geolocation? I mean, did they say Bourne, or do they say Buzz Bay, Katamet, Picasset, Gray Gables?
They have two GIS layers, geographic information system layers, that they put things into hexagons, and they have a level 8 hexagon, which is a couple of blocks, and they have a level 9 hexagon, which is 4 or 5 houses. So relatively small. There are within the level 9, there are like 327,000 hexagons across the Cape. So but not every hexagon is going to have is not going to have a test. I think within the town of Bourne through that period, there were maybe 4,000 tests from no, there was a higher number. It's like 13,000 tests from 800 some odd users. So there's there are some frequent flyers within that information, but it is available to us.
Yeah, that and the Microsoft data seem to be really nice, relatively unbiased data sets. Although somebody who's testing all of the time, trying to figure out why their Xfinity speed has dropped, or they dropped a voice over internet telephone call, there might be a bias there. And I plead guilty.
Yeah, there often is a
Me
bias for there's bias for people who have fast speeds, because they tend to want to see their fast speeds, and there are biases for people who are just trying to figure out how slow things may be going. I will say that those tests are exclusive of mobile, so they're fixed network, whether that's home Wi-Fi or direct connection. So
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I just want to open it up to questions from anybody. I'll start with
anybody.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Hi, thank you. And I apologize, I was on mute. And Steve, thank you so much for the presentation. I apologize for joining late, multiple overlapping meetings this morning. But I do agree with the data and the stats, the way that we collected them. And maybe you had mentioned this earlier. Are there any other suggestions that we can pass on to the community for continue to collect data, other than what the efforts that we're already doing? Are there any other suggestions?
There's a couple ways to continue to give feedback. So there's MBI has a survey that's still up, and we have the link on our website, and you can certainly take that. It's more broad than
Which we are doing,
speeds.
right?
Yep. So keep pushing that. And there's also a link to a speed test that we are managing with our consultant, and that's just speed test. So it gives you just quick speed tests. Where are you? What is your location? So those are both up on our website, and that can be done frequently. It's much quicker than the MBI test, and it just will help broaden the data set we have in Bourne.
Right, right. I believe we as a committee have discussed those as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions from the committee on anything in the whole digital equity planning study? Okay, I do have one, and Steve, this is something that we've gone over via email. One of the concerns of the committee about the charrette is that on November 13th, they're still going to be tearing the Bourne Bridge apart. And what time is the charrette scheduled for?
I think it's 7 to 9, as I recall.
I'm sorry?
I
think
as I recall, it was 7 to 9, 6 to 8, something like that.
I saw 6 p.m. on one of the flyers.
6 to 8, okay.
Yep. It is 6 p.m. at the Bourne Veterans Community Center. I'm possibly more optimistic, hoping that they will wrap up Bourne Bridge construction by the 13th. That being said, we certainly recognize it's an issue to any location in Bourne. That one's challenging. Folks coming from the mainland side coming over would be challenged to get to a location on the other side. So certainly appreciate the concern, but at this point we've talked to town leadership, and we're going to stick with the current location. Certainly if there's anyone that has any challenges getting there, we'd be happy to come to them and make sure that there's other ways to be involved with the process. But given the outreach we have already underway with this, we're going to stick with the time and location.
Okay, and
That's-
it is going to be
yeah.
available via Zoom, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
The one
Which is
thing I'd
kind of-
suggest, I just suggest one thing, you might just want to get a sense for how many people actually came over the bridge, right? If there's still construction, so that'll give you a sense of how skewed your data might be. I mean, if you do get 50%, that tells you one thing. If you only get 10%, that might tell you something else.
Sure, considering that the places that have the worst connectivity are not on the Buzzards Bay side of the bridge.
Yeah.
That's, we did ask if you could put it at the high school on this side of the bridge in the media room, and we got very politely turned down, but that would seem to be a really more considerate solution.
Another suggestion is to get a sense for, or somehow try to correlate the comments to the location in town, right? Because Wendy did indicate that sort of the worst parts of town are probably in the Monument Beach, Pocasset area, but you might find there are some other comments that correlate with particular villages also. So that's probably something else you might want to keep in mind.
Mm.
Yes, certainly this is a challenge we ran into when we were doing the Bourne Complete Streets project as well. And we did ask the question of where you're coming from to give an understanding of the context of the comment. So we can work that into the workshop and
good.
make sure that we're not missing representation from any geographic area in Bourne. If we find that we are, we can work on supplementing our activities to make sure that the opinions are coming from all the different areas of Bourne.
Great.
Just to be clear, you have already engaged the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe too, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I presume you're doing that also in Sandwich, because they've got a big part of their the tribe is, although it's a small tribe, is in Sandwich.
Correct. To the extent that we need two conversations, we're having one for Bourne, one for Sandwich. And some of the conversations we're covering concerns related to both towns where there's some overlap.
One suggestion, and this goes outside your area, but it might be worthwhile to make a call to whoever the regional planning agency is for Plymouth County or the town of Plymouth, and just ask if in fact there's a similar digital equity survey that they're doing there, because the tribe has a huge population that's just across the border in southern Plymouth. And just for courtesy, just you might share with them the kinds of questions that you're asking of the tribe, within Barnstable County, just to make sure everybody's touching the same bases.
Yep. Thank you for the suggestion. We certainly talk to our partners. Would be the Old Colony Planning Council that covers Plymouth on a number of topics. We can make sure we touch on that one.
Great. And I'm sure the tribe would be appreciative of that too. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? In terms of the outreach media, you're going to send that to us or to me, and I will. I'll circulate that. Wendy has been doing a good job putting stuff up on the Bourne Residents Facebook page, and you've already covered. You're going to be covering the library. Oh, thank you, Steve. Okay. You're going to be covering the library. You're going to be covering Council on Aging. How about veterans groups? Anything specific?
I don't have the list in front of me.
Yeah. One other constituency I talked about are the trailer parks. Again, the one here in Pecasset we know was somewhat organized when they attempted to purchase their whole property from the past owner, and they were unsuccessful in that. And I think they've kind of dissolved after that. But Anne Marie, do you recall? I know the select board was watching that or tracking that. Do you recall if they have an active organization?
I
Bourne,
think it was only put together for the lawsuit. You're talking about the Pocasset?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
Pecasset Trailer Park.
Right. I think they only formed as an organization when the lawsuit came into play. I'm not sure that they are an active association. I can find out.
If you can find a
And
name,
if there's a point of contact, I can
that's
find that
the
out.
crucial, is a point of contact. What was the other comment I had? Steve and David, one surrogate we came up for people who were served or underserved might be to take a look at the penetration for DirecTV or the Dish Network. There are a number of folks around who only do get their television via the Dish Network and don't have any kind of other either 75 ohm or any other type of connection. I don't know if there's a way to query those companies about their customer base and what their customer base looks like in each of the zip codes. Presumably that could be, for instance, Verizon does not provide cable cable TV over their FiOS connections in Buzzards Bay, so there might be some penetration there. And those folks obviously would be have qualifying broadband and would be served. But there are a lot of other around me here in Pecasset. There are a lot of folks who have Dish TV antennas on their roofs, and I know they do not have 75 ohm cable coming into the house.
For sure.
Yeah, thank you for all of those suggestions. We'll certainly build out the outreach list. I know the veterans group's on there, and we'll think about the trailer park when we're talking to the housing authority. And then on your last point there, as part of our parallel regional needs assessment, our consultant's going to be talking to providers, and we can see what their thoughts are and certain some of those other forms of communication that you're talking about there. See if they have any insights on whether or not we can get some information about those connections.
Now, with respect to the schools, I know that you had some representation or some handouts or something at the resource night a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how well attended that is by parents of all the kids in the school system. I would suspect that there are a lot of people that wouldn't be going to that because their kids have been in the school for years and they understand this already. But it would be probably, you'd get a lot more penetration if you gave them enough flyers so every single kid took one home in their backpack. Then it would go home and the parents would see it, rather than relying on just one small, comparatively small community event that's sort of self-selected at that.
Yeah,
And
certainly.
that'll reach people that don't have any internet service and may not have a dish and don't have a computer and don't have any literacy training. So that'll cover a lot of folks.
Yeah, certainly we are going to be continuing to have conversations with our contacts at the schools, and we'll be sharing that media kit. And I know there's a number of ways they get information out. Where I go to school in Brewster, I get a weekly newsletter that's got all those sort of community happenings. So we'll talk to them about the best ways that they've been engaging with their students.
You get that in hard copy or online?
Each school is different, so we'll talk to the school and see what they've been finding most successful reaching their students.
Well, it's not the students they have to reach, it's the parents.
Understood. Yep. So certainly we have ways in our community that we want to talk to our community partners at the school to see how they've been doing that and what's been most successful. I've been surprised in some of the communities that are using different means that seem to be successful with their individual communities. So we'll see what they've been using.
Hi, this is Catherine Walton. I just wanted to jump in with a suggestion. I know specifically, I actually used to be a partner with Dish, and I know that they are very hesitant to give out any customer information because they know how easily they'll be replaced. But I would like to offer, if if any town needs it, specifically Bourne or anyone else, we could set up a very simple online survey asking if anyone does use a Dish or DirecTV network, and explain that we are trying to gather that data and just, again, put it on the local pages. And I think we would have probably pretty good success collecting data that way. So if that is something that you'd like to do either in this town or another town, I'm happy to help with that.
Thank you for that offer. We'll certainly think about what if that's a channel we need to get that information. That is included in the MBI survey in terms of the type of technology you use to get broadband service. So one, thank you for pushing and keep pushing that survey. But we'll certainly circle back if we find a need to go for that specific question.
Great. Okay, will do. Thanks.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we're coming up on the hour here, and I don't see any other immediate questions. For the couple of folks who weren't able to make today's meeting, after they review your presentation, I just may ask for your forbearance, and I may forward you some questions that come from them after the fact, after they've been able to review the Zoom call here. Okay, Steve and David, thank you so much, and keep in touch. We will probably, I'm going to try to attend. I think you said the library session is going to be on the 16th. I'm going to try to do that. There's another one on November 1st. I'll try to be there. We'll have somebody from the committee there if we can also.
And just to be clear about those events, there's no programming for those. Those are just informal pop-ups. We'll have staff members there, kind of like an intercept survey type thing, but really just to have some informal conversations with anyone who's interested in talking about the topic. If they want to learn a little bit, if they want to learn a lot, we'll be there and kind of meet them where they are. So no formal presentation at those events, just pop up and kind of opportunistic conversations.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
again, this would be.
I missed the dates and locales of those. Could you quickly just run those down for me so I can spread them around?
Do you have those at the top of your fingers, Helene? Oh yeah, there we go in the chat. So the 16th, we're going to be at the library, and
Of
on
October or November?
October 16th, we'll be at the library. November 1st, we'll be at the Council on Aging.
And these are late
Thank you.
afternoon, evening?
The timing of the library session is still to be determined. I'm talking to them this afternoon to finalize that. And the Council on Aging is in the morning to coincide with their cafe, the cafe that they put on there at the Council on Aging.
Mm-hmm.
So that would
And-
be 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock?
I believe it's 9 to 11:30.
Thank you.
Great.
Can you let me know about the library one when you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
And we will publicize that. But what I was mentioning is that it might be me or some other member or members of the committee who will be there just to let those folks, constituents in town, know that this committee exists. And not so much that we can solve individual problems, but we exist generally to try to better meet their needs with regard to broadband connectivity, just as a local advocate.
Yep, and certainly information on those events are up on our website, the times and all of that. And if you're not able to attend in person, certainly we can handle those events. If there's a piece of information you'd like to have on our table to kind of follow up with members of your committee, we can do something like that as well. So certainly
Cool.
let us know if there's a way. We want to make sure that we have meet them where they are and give them opportunities if they'd like to have follow-up conversations with other groups like yourselves.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, pardon me, you haven't heard from her, but Helene Gaudreau just spoke for the first time. She's actually been at a couple of the meetings that have occurred in Bourne. So for anybody on the committee who hasn't met her, she's a very good resource too. Okay, with that, I want to thank the staff of the Cape Cod Commission for a very nice overview presentation. Is it possible for you to send us just the slides from this, and we will turn it into a PowerPoint, and we're going to put that as just a standalone up on our town webpage for our committee, just for anybody who wants to get at it.
Yep.
We typically have not had a whole lot of people interested in coming to a morning Zoom call to sit in on this from the general public or residents, but we've gotten some calls about some of these subjects after the fact.
We'll certainly share the slides, and I probably should have highlighted this as well. We recently updated the project website, so everything kind of broadly about how to interact with the program, what we're doing, is all up on our website. So if there's kind of a general interest from the public, that would be a great place to send them.
Cool, excellent.
Well,
Okay, any other questions from anyone? Okay, with that, I want to again thank the members of the committee of the Cape Cod Commission, and we'll let you guys go back to your workday, and we will, on our committee, continue our agenda. Thank you so much for participating, and again, apologies about our scheduling problem last week, and thanks for your forbearance and rescheduling to today.
no problem. Have a good day.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, moving on to our regular agenda. First of all, did everybody get a chance to look at the updated action tracker table that I sent around? Again, the issue apparently, just to back up, is that if the agenda mentions the word action tracker, then the action tracker has to be made part of the agenda. So if we don't do anything with the action tracker and just have it as an ancillary document that we refer to, we can submit it the day before. I sent this off to who did I send it to? I sent it to Kathleen when I spotted the error over the weekend, and she never was able to actually update the agenda that's online. But everybody, if you've received the action tracker, you can refer to that as we go through the agenda.
I think the problem, Bob, is that we were inside the 48-hour window at that point.
Yeah.
So that's why she couldn't update it. I
Yeah.
would propose that we don't use the word action tracker in the agenda going forward and just leave it as a separate document.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. That I
And I
think
will-
is a solution to the problem.
And I probably shouldn't refer to it in the minutes either for that reason.
No, I think you can refer
No.
to it in the minutes, because we should be doing is including the action tracker in the minutes,
Okay.
but not in the agenda.
Okay. I think that's the appropriate suggestion. So as we put the next agenda together, we will just leave out the words, instead of old and ongoing business in the action tracker, it's just old and ongoing business, period.
Right, exactly.
And we'll go from there. Okay. Having said that, does anybody have, let me just get my agenda back up here. First, let's go through Wendy's minutes. Does anybody have any questions, changes on the minutes?
Yes.
I got some from Jed, and I got one from somebody else. I forget who.
So I marked up the document and sent it to Wendy. Do you want to share it, Wendy? You want me to share it?
You can probably pull it up faster than I can.
Okay. People seeing that? This here?
Yeah, give me a
Yep.
second here.
Everybody ready?
Everybody set?
Okay.
Mm,
All right. So my first comment was that Maria had asked that we put the name of the committee at the top of the document.
well, yeah, when I send it to her, I do that, but I will make sure to do it in bigger letters next time.
Yeah, it didn't make it to the 9:28 minutes. If you look at the minutes from 9:28 that are on the website,
Mhm.
it doesn't have the name of the committee at the top of the document for some.
So
that-
she doesn't paste those onto our like stationary thing?
No. The document's
Ah.
posted as is.
Okay,
Okay, so I'll delete the comment then and just get rid of that.
yeah, I got that.
Okay, the next comment was, there was some text in here. I think it came out of the conversation that Wendy had with Sam Patterson after the meeting, right? This text here doesn't reflect the conversation in the meeting. So I'm questioning whether you should put something in the minutes if it wasn't discussed in the meeting.
No, I would tend to agree with that, Jed.
So we put that in, so we'd put that in today's minutes.
Correct. That would,
Yeah.
right. If we, assuming we discuss it today, it would go in today's minutes. Yes.
We
Yeah.
will discuss it today.
Okay. And then my last comment, I kind of rewrote the Open Cape thing, that there's multiple contracts with Open Cape and things kind of got conflated in our conversation. So I just rewrote it to show that there's a $250,000 contract for running the fiber. And then in addition to that, there's several other contracts that connect 7 town buildings. So those are 2 different things. So I just rewrote it to make that clear. Anybody have any questions with what I wrote?
Nope.
Okay.
Just need to. Why don't you leave that up there in a second so I can just snag it. Make sure I get it the way you want it. Come on. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was basically it for me. I'll unshare.
Okay, anyone else have comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. If no more further comments, a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll move to approve the minutes as amended from October 5th.
Second.
Hearing no others, then the minutes pass unanimously. I note right now that we've got 4 of 7 members present, so we do have a quorum.
And Bob, I'm very sorry to do this, but I do need to jump off because I do have another meeting. I'm sorry, I have an issue that came up that I have to go. So
Okay, Catherine, real quick before you go.
Yep.
Tony had mentioned that morning meetings were somewhat inconvenient, with the exception of the next upcoming meeting on the 19th. Just in general, do you have a better time that might work better for you?
before 9 a.m.
Well,
or after 6:30.
before 9 a.m. or after 6:30. Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
I will do my very best to. I can block off an hour, but I can't block off 2 hours or longer. You know what I mean? So I will definitely try to. I'll definitely block these off and try to attend a few more. But if we could consider changing the time, it would be really helpful. Or maybe, if that works for people. If it doesn't, I will just absolutely make every effort to be here.
Okay, we'll hopefully after a while, maybe the frequency and length of these meetings is going to slow down a bit after we get over.
I actually think, you know what, Bob,
so
that you just hit it. I could do it. I could absolutely do this once a month and plan for 2 hours, but every week is really taxing. That's really where I'm struggling right now. But I'm in, so I'll definitely be there next week.
Okay, very good. We'll keep that in mind as we plan this going forward. Okay.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
So Bob, I don't think we can do any more business.
Go ahead. You don't think what? I'm sorry.
I don't think we can do any more committee business at this point. We don't
Well,
have a quorum.
we
Why
can
not?
we can hold discussions. We can't vote.
Okay,
Okay.
good point.
Yeah. You know, we don't have to. I don't see anything particular that that requires a vote coming up here. In fact, a couple of items aren't going to be discussed because the champions are not on board.
So
You know,
I guess my question about this though is in terms of the minutes, how does that, maybe Anne Marie, maybe you could help us out here. Can we continue and then post the minutes as having deliberated on these items, even though we don't have a quorum?
I don't think we can use the word deliberation.
Right, we're still, you can still have, we had a quorum when the meeting started, so we can still, you know, talk about anything and report it out. And it's just that when the minutes next time are voted on, those who weren't present just simply abstain.
I see.
You know, they'll
Okay.
just have to abstain.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Well, again, I think we can go through much of this relatively quickly. Again, we've already taken an hour of folks' time. Anne Marie, just a question for you on the next item of down there is the draft letter to Verizon is coming up or came up at the select board. I'm sorry, I was driving in a car and wasn't able to sign in.
Okay, yes, it did. And you received a copy. It officially went out yesterday. So you
Yeah.
should have received a copy of the letter that was on letterhead with the select board chair, Mary Jane's signature on it. And she will be the point of contact when Verizon reaches out, and then CC you on any information that is received from Verizon.
Okay,
She'll defer that information back to the committee.
I will forward that letter around to the committee. I picked that up while I was driving yesterday, so my ability to manage paper at rest stops was not that good. Okay, the next item is Cape Cod Technology Council. Brian and I were on a call. When was it? I guess I was driving Tuesday. I had to drive 600 miles in the last couple of days, so pardon my addled brain here. And the one question was, what is the appropriate way to lobby to get MBI to declare as much as possible of the Cape Cod as underserved, and also what is the way to ask them to adopt the area challenge model. And you know, Routes came up to request the select boards of the various towns to make requests to MBI, to get the legislative delegations to request this of MBI, et cetera, and nothing really was resolved. The Technology Council is considering doing that, and their broadband subcommittee is doing that. And the timing is the other issue that came up. Do we want to have the various parties lobby MBI and the I guess it's the Department of Telecommunications and Cable is the agency above them. Do we want to do it now, or do we want to do it when the draft challenge regulations or procedures are published in November and there's an official 30-day comment period? All of that is open, but there was some kind of a consensus of the 5 or so people who were on the telephone call that there should be some kind of concerted lobbying effort to get MBI to with data or whatever to back off on their current presumption that the data they got from Comcast, for instance, about 100% service at 25/3 covered the entire Cape, and there was no problem on Cape Cod. So that's a summary of a very of a phone call that I sat in on.
So that was with the Technology Council, right?
Yes, it was a subset of the Technology Council. It was Steve Smith, who you know before. It was Gene Curry, who has been, kind of our advocate for the longest time in terms of putting this committee together and working with the Canal Chamber of Commerce, and a couple of other folks, and Brian and me. So that's a summary of that very quickly. And there were no decisions about that, but there's still some time to go ahead and do that. Okay, any questions on that? I'm moving down to the next item, which is liaison with other Cape Cod entities, and included in that is Wendy's communication with Sam Patterson, which is the next item down on the action item list.
Yep.
And I'm going to jump right to that if nobody has any objections, if that's okay, Jed, since that's the most salient contact. Just a question: who is Sam Patterson, and what is his role with the MLP?
So Sam
Wendy?
is the president of the MLP,
Oh,
or
okay.
chair, one or the other.
He was
Very-
he was a member of the select board in Falmouth for quite some time and resigned angrily because a small subset of the residents blocked any coordination with the wind farm to bring the cables ashore on Falmouth's shores. And he was disgusted that a small group of people could block something that was obviously so necessary and so beneficial to not just the folks in Falmouth Heights, but to everybody in the Commonwealth and beyond. And so because Sam's one of those guys, he got involved with the MLB and has been working with them quite a bit.
Well, yeah, he's one of the elected board members. I think he
Yes.
had the most amount of votes, believe it or not.
Yes. Yeah,
And
I believe it.
believe that is, I'm not sure if that's what's made him chair, but if not, he was elected chair.
Yep. And they've been working with Mashpee to consolidate efforts, and also realizes that the south part of our little neck of the woods, like down to Katamet, and Pecasset would be easier to connect to from that direction rather than trying to work coming over the canal. But he's interested with working in Falmouth, with Falmouth and Mashpee and Bourne. And they're having a meeting. I don't have it right in front of me of when that's going to be, but I think I did put that out. And we are cordially invited to attend and see if we can join forces.
That's great.
Obviously, because the more people there are, or the more municipalities or entities that are involved, the more purchasing power we would have, and the more the bigger ISPs have to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Just Wendy, if you could just come up with the date, time, and place of that meeting, I'll just broadcast that to everybody, and it'd be very good. Jed, again, this has been kind of your sweet spot in terms of connecting with them. And Wendy, Sam Patterson personally. It'd be nice if you folks, one of you or both of you, could attend. If more want to attend, I'll let everybody know, and one more person beyond the two of you perhaps could also attend to avoid an open meeting violation.
Yeah, I'll just point out that their agenda is to review the RFIs. That's pretty much all they're doing right now.
Yeah, he realized that they didn't get some that they were hoping to hear from, and some may or may not have been even contacted. So,
but I guess my point is to attend a 2-hour meeting to watch them review RFIs
is not going to be
the best
helpful.
use of our time. If it may be a better idea is if a subset of us met with a subset of them separately.
Yeah, their next meeting is at Falmouth Town Hall, October 26th at 7 p.m.
Okay, very good. It'd be nice if, well, we've made contact over the phone, so I don't think personal attendance is necessary in that case. I agree with Jed. But it's nice to have just a face-to-face hello sometime, a meet and greet.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
totally get that. Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
nice to have a face-to-face introductory call. The other thing too, they're a long way away. I mean, they have, I think their next move, they have to organize themselves with the town somehow. There's a bit of tension between the town manager and the MLP, where the town manager doesn't want the MLP to be part of town government, and the MLP wants to be part of town government. So that
Mhm.
is going to have to get resolved, and then they have to go forward and try to figure out how to raise $40 million.
Right. Understood. That it would seem following the tracks that they take or don't take, or the paths they take or don't take, I think would be very instructive. And in terms of our duty to advise our select board,
Mhm.
that's the way to go. We know exactly the same occurs in town. I've had conversations with Marlene, and she said this is a space that she doesn't think is appropriate for town government to be involved at all.
Right.
So,
Right. I expect the same conversation. It will be interesting to see how Falmouth Fair is doing that.
well, like I said, they're ahead of us if it's an MLP solution, and if they come up with a solution to it, it'd be interesting to see that's acceptable to their town government and select board. That'd be something very interesting to watch.
Yep.
Certainly if it's amenable to both, certainly a model we might be able to look at.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Any other further discussions on that item? Okay, next on the list is we've already discussed digital equity planning. We don't need to deal anymore with that. I guess I covered outreach to MBI a little bit in my discussions with the Technology Council, or Brian's and my discussions. Any questions on that? Let me look at the tracker if it says much different. Again, that's exactly how we perhaps get a request in to have the whole Cape declared as underserved because of the diversity of these pockets. And I think the hexagon data that David's coming up with, if it's identifying pockets as small as 5 houses, that might be very instructive. If it looks like the Cape is Swiss cheese because those are all over the place, then the only way to solve that is with a town-wide or area-wide solutions. So declaring the whole Cape to be underserved might be the way forward for that. Okay. I think both of those are still, the way forward, and who's responsible are to be determined. But I think we ought to keep an eye on that space. Okay. Next down on the list is at least on the action tracker is bridge crossings. And again, I just got back in town, so I have not contacted Enbridge, but I will. That's on my list of things to do this week, and just haven't cleared my desk enough to get to that. Any questions about that? Just to be clear, Enbridge is the entity that's responsible for telecommunications crossings of the bridges, whereas the Department of Transportation and their advisory council are responsible for the actual roadways, construction of the bridges themselves. Okay, the next item, again, we've gone over, this is the Zoom ID that we will use from now on. So if you want to just put that on your calendars or whatever, we can go from there. And either Anne Marie or somebody in town hall will have to be the host of the meetings, just because the way the license works. And Anne Marie, if at any time you're not able to attend or anything, if you could just send me and send perhaps Maria an email so that they can open and share the meeting. We'll just make sure somebody gets the helm of it and gets it going.
Will
Okay.
do.
By the way, thank you again for participating in this. I don't know how many Zoom calls and other meetings you do in a typical week, but you know, this is one of many for your literally hundreds of dollars in pay that you get. You certainly, you know, you're getting paid in the cents per hour level. Of course,
Right.
we're all at 0 cents per hour, but again, we're going to get something out of this. We're going to get better internet service at least before I die, I hope. Anyway,
That's the
okay,
plan.
yeah. Again, I have not contacted Mary Rebello about posting all of our email addresses up on the town webpage. That's on my my action list for this week.
So,
For my
speaking of posting things, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring it up, but our minutes for our first 3 meetings have still not been posted.
No, really? God
Yeah,
damn it.
I thought Maria said she got them all up to date. I'll check in again with Maria. I had talked to her. I thought she said that she got them all up to date, but maybe that was select board. Maybe she
Might have
misunderstood
been
when I
select
asked her the
board, yeah.
question.
So I'm
Yeah.
on the, right now I'm on the cable, our webpage. There's only the 928 minutes are the only ones that have been posted. Yeah, so maybe it's, I don't know. Is it just a backup?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so on the
Okay.
select board, yeah, the select board's all up to date.
Oh, good.
But our committee is not. So I don't.
Okay.
Is that Maria who would do that?
Yes.
Okay, Mary Rebello is in the clerk's office, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
No, Maria is in the select board office,
right, but Mary Rebello,
but
I have
Mary's in
Mary.
the clerk. Yes.
Okay, okay.
You might want to check. I don't think she has posting capabilities. I thought that Maria was the only one that had posting capabilities through the select board office,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what
the
I'm
town
seeing.
administrator's
Yeah,
office.
right. I think the
Okay.
hard copy goes to Mary and she
Yeah.
stamps it. And then Maria takes it back and scans it, I think.
Yes,
It's always got the stamp on it.
because she posts the agendas, so she does
Yep,
postings.
okay. I'll start with Maria and we'll get this this straightened out. Just figure where it's going. Okay, Brian is not with us, but he had a conversation on Tuesday with the folks from Whip City, and
Yeah, I was
he
on that call. I was there.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Jed. Great.
Very informative. I don't have any detailed numbers. I don't know if Brian has gotten a spreadsheet from them or not, so I don't know what the numbers are, but they kind of went through their capabilities. It looks pretty impressive to me. The other thing I'll point out is that I think the way this would work most efficiently would be if Bourne created an MLP, Falmouth had an MLP, and Mashpee had one, and then we formed a co-op, and that we then the co-op contracted with Whip City Fiber to run the ISP and to do all the customer support. That was kind of that seems like the way it would work. That's basically what they do out in Western Mass. All of those towns have MLPs. Whether they're co-op or not was unclear, but there's adjoining towns that all use Whip City Fiber to run their networks.
So Whip City would, for example, run any co-op that we did with Falmouth and Mashpee, for example.
Yeah, for example, right. I don't know if what the legal entity would have to be, but they have 20 towns in Western Mass that they handle, and a number of them are geographically contiguous. So I don't know how those towns organize. The other interesting thing is I think they have 20,000 customers right now. So if they took Bourne and Falmouth, they would have probably a 40-50% increase in their coverage.
Could they do that?
Yeah.
They could scale up like that, all right?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, they have a pretty good sized staff now. They probably have a bigger staff than Comcast does on the Cape, from what I could tell.
That's probably true.
Got to remember too, so they're part of Westfield Gas and Electric. So this isn't a small standalone company. So for example, a lot of their shared services, things like billing and HR and accounting, is shared with a bigger company. So,
Just to point out, a past discussion with them was that you know, the concern was if they had a cluster of towns on Cape Cod that they had to serve, how they would manage that. And they said the way they work in Western Massachusetts is they might have one cable truck that services 2 or 3 small towns, you know, with essentially a small workstation there. They wouldn't be driving, say, a repair truck all the way from Westfield over to here every time they get a call from a customer. It'd be somebody who is based here or subcontracted to somebody. That's been the concern of Open Cape, is that they've had to bring people in from off Cape, which is why they charge $5,000 to make a connection to a business, or it costs them $5,000. But anyway, the economy of scale is if they had enough business on Cape Cod. Tony mentioned, you know, 30% of the customers, and if there are 12,000 houses in Bourne, so they'd need 3,000 or 4,000 customers here. Presumably, Falmouth is 20,000 houses. They'd need 6,000 there. That gets them 10,000 customers, you know, within 2 towns, and perhaps add Mashpee into that too. Anyway, the bottom line on the whole thing is that they said this is something that they could do. You know, we got the same response when Brian and I met with the Taunton MLP, and they said functionally it's something that they actually could do. It's just that politically they didn't have the right optics with their board, just because they had not fully served all of the people in the town of the city of Taunton. Jed, did they mention anything at all about their costing that they were starting to go through?
most of it was related to poll. So one costing thing they said was, they said the biggest variability in their quote will be how many poles have to be fixed, basically. Along those lines, they said that they have a whole, I guess, process, and they have contacts with both people in both Verizon and Eversource to get a whole polling plan done. So one thing we could do is actually contract with them to get the poll survey done and to get all the polls fixed. One of the interesting things they said is that basically you go out with Verizon and Eversource and you have to negotiate it on a poll by poll basis who's going to pay for it. Apparently, some of the older polls, the utility is responsible for, you know, replacing like a 60 or 80-year-old pole that's become condemned. On the other hand, there may be one that's in fine shape, but let's just say you need more room on the pole for fiber, in which case we may have to pay for that. Mm-hmm. So they've done this apparently in a dozen or so towns, and they have a process down. They know how to talk to the utilities to get the best deal, so to speak. So one of the things they offered was for us to contract with them to get that done.
Mm-hmm. Just a point for Anne Marie. I had been trying to catch up with Peter Meyer on a couple of topics, wearing different hats. But one of my recollection was that during part of the term when Peter was chair, there was an effort to contact Verizon and Eversource to get them to repair a number of the poles that had just been hit in crashes, et cetera, and that that had made very, very temporary repairs just to keep the service on the crossbars up at the top in place. You know, and a number of these, you've seen them all over town. They look like they're ready to fall down on the roadway.
I'll follow up with Peter and ask him where, you know, or even with the town administrator. I'm assuming it would go through. Yeah.
Again, that was a former agenda item for the select board, and there was some just concerns about just general safety of these things. and I don't know where that went, but
Okay.
you know, that they might have points of contact on in each of the utilities about who owns them, who has responsibility. I think we had some discussion in last week's meeting where we said that for car crashes, for instance, they would pursue the insurance company of the car owner to go and replace the pole that he hit or she hit. So I don't know where that went, but you know, clearly that's points of contact that we might be able to pursue independently of maybe Whip City or anybody else that we partner with as we go forward with this this effort.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any further agenda items to discuss?
I have a question. Is anyone familiar with broadband wireless queue? Have you heard of it?
What's
Broadband
word?
wireless 2?
Q.
how do you spell Q?
Like
Q,
the letter
the
Q?
letter. So their office is in our building next door. I don't know if you want to reach out to see, they offer high-speed wireless internet. I don't know if they have any type of data that we might want to, that's worth looking into.
Oh,
Their
broadband Q.
their focus is to service mostly rural areas.
Sounds
But-
like some kind of FWA to me.
Yeah, I've got the website up. Give me some time. Maybe we can discuss it next time after I've had a chance to look at their data.
Okay.
But it does look like, yeah, in fact, yeah, it is fixed wireless. It's 4G, 5G. So it's fixed wireless based on the top of this website here, but I'll take a look.
Okay, let me find my pen here. I'll put that on the my action tracker list. And just drop my pen. Okay, I think we can add that as a discussion item for next week. Anything else on today's agenda? If not, why don't we put next week's agenda together?
All right. Yeah, I've started working on it.
One quickie here. This is just an organizational thing. I know that we can't have an official meeting without a quorum, but when I'm writing down attendance and Catherine drops in for 10 minutes, does that count? Because she's not here for the rest of this.
That's okay. She counts, and then you can note in the minutes that when the time she left.
And also say that no votes were brought, nothing was brought up
Right,
for
no
a vote.
votes were taken, and that'll be indicative of, because it won't be in the minutes, so.
Okay.
Yeah, you can traditionally you put in the time that she was here and then the time that she wasn't.
Well, I did not note those, but
That's fine. It's fine.
Well, but you can note that she left after we voted on the minutes.
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no further votes taken.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, just real quick, speaking of the next meeting and follow-on meetings, again, Tony said he would be able to participate in a meeting on the 19th at 9 a.m. But perhaps at that meeting we discuss, what kind of schedule and timing we go forward with future meetings. One other quick point with regard to, and I lost my train of thought. Never mind.
Do you want me to post
With regard to
do you want to look at an agenda for next time, Bob? I have.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what I started here. So we'll meet at 9 on the 19th. So do we have the permanent Zoom numbers here?
I believe those are the permanent Zoom numbers that are on this week's agenda that Maria added. So if you want to type them in, I can, if you don't have it up, 815.
Okay, 815.
8788. 2013.
Does that look right?
Really?
Yeah, and then cabled. Yeah.
Okay. All right, call the meeting to order. We'll do the minutes from the 12th,
Today, yeah.
and then,
I think it's just 203, not 13.
I don't think so.
203. The one I typed in was 2013 to get in.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
2013 on the agenda for today, yeah.
815-878-8213,
All right, my mistake.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then, this A through M, Bob, is identical to what's in your planner for the 5th. I wasn't sure if you're gonna change any of these.
Again, since we were missing a number of people there, I would leave it as is.
Okay,
You added broadband queue on the bottom.
yeah,
Um,
and I moved the
Uh,
Whip City Fiber one up here because you have it in the tracker as L.
yeah.
Otherwise, I just took the 10.5 tracker and I took the item title and letter and put it right in the agenda.
That's
Thank
great.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. The one other item.
Yep. You
We
cut
lost
out,
you,
Bob.
Well,
And Brian. Hello?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
lost you. Go ahead.
You said the one other item and then you were gone.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Xfinity. The one other item with regard to Whip City is at one point they had said that they would like to do a face-to-face meeting with us at some point.
Yeah, that kind of dropped off. They started the meeting with that, but we ended it and didn't discuss that. So
Okay.
they don't seem to want to do that at this point.
If that comes up again in your further discussions or Brian's further discussions with them, we can schedule our meeting around that. It'll take a little more advanced planning to get a room in the
Sure.
the veterans whatever. But we could also perhaps do an evening meeting or something to take a little pressure off. But that just a note, that would happen after the Corps finishes their repair on the dam bridge.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't know how much more we need to know at this point about them. I mean, we've got quite a bit of information given where we are. I mean, we're a ways off from moving ahead with them, unless the
Right.
kinds of things we might consider are some point efforts where we might contract with them to do the polls. We might contract with them to do a design, although I like some others. I like Matrix better for that. So I could see us doing some small projects. But I don't think an overall ISP discussion, that's probably a little early for that.
Right. Even for the small planning efforts, the hurdle there is we don't have a budget of source of funds or anything to do that. So
That's right. That's right.
we'd have to solve that problem or that hurdle before we move forward with them.
Totally. Yeah. So I don't.
Yeah.
So my point is, I don't know that an on-site meeting at this point is. I think it's a little premature.
Yeah. Just as background, Taunton didn't seem to think there would be a problem with them paying for it themselves if, in fact, they were going to be the service provider and get the revenue from the subscribers when they came on board. So they were willing to put the money up front. So it'd be nice if Whip City were to make that offer to us.
Yeah, I guess what's kind of difficult is this has to go through an RFP process, all of it.
Yeah.
And I don't see us awarding the ISP business to Whip City Fiber anytime soon for them to do that.
Yeah. No, it full well. But again, let's watch the Falmouth MLP space because they're going to be trotting these streets long before.
Okay. All right. So on the agenda, is this what we want to post?
Well, that could still be a fall under planning, so why not?
Yeah, but I mean the whole agenda. Anything else we want to do with this agenda I was gonna send it over to Maria to post it if
Looks good
everyone's
to
okay
me.
with that.
If
All
you
right.
That
could,
looks good to me.
Okay.
can you shoot me a Word document so I won't have to retype it all from the screenshot?
Yeah, so what I do, when I send it to Maria, I copy the whole committee. And then
Oh,
typically
okay.
Maria typically responds to the whole committee with the actual version that was stamped. And it's in a PDF. But I'll send it out as a Word.
Good, excellent. You're going to send this off to, I guess, to the enterprise also, or a summary of this, Wendy, right?
Yeah, they just want like a couple of quick bullet points. I didn't even see what they put in last week. I didn't get a chance to check.
It looks like they took, at least online, I was able to see when I was in West Virginia, they took the whole chunk out of your notes and just dropped that in. I didn't
Oh,
see the
well.
paper. That's good.
Yeah, right. It
So,
looks like they might have cut and pasted from the minutes.
They don't have the minutes because I don't have the minutes. But by the time, I mean, they want that like now. And
Oh,
so I won't have the minutes all typed up and neat until probably later tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you know, the basic concepts are there. They're not going to give us a ton of space. And I know that a ton of what we talk about isn't for general publication yet. So I sort of kind of look to see what would inform people without telling them too much and maintain good relations with the editor.
Wendy, I think the big things to put in are just the digital equity
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I'll put in that, and I will also
Council on Aging,
But I noticed when we went to that meeting, there was the Council on Aging, and the library and the school were represented, but there were a lot of other people that were totally not there. So, you know, I mean, I'll note that, but they don't seem to have made any progress on underserved or unserved populations yet, as we reminded them again today.
Well, just say that again, the Cape Cod Commission is busily looking for other
for more
segments
help.
of the population that are underserved.
Yep.
And if you,
I'm going to put up their website and the specific link for their speed test also. So
right, great.
by the way, the enterprise has already posted a short piece on the letter that's going to Verizon.
Awesome.
Yeah, that came out of the select board meeting, and so there's a short piece already online, and I expect it to be in the paper.
Yep.
Yep.
I asked her to just like pretend we're the lobster trap and we need to have a little ad space every issue, and I'll send her a couple of bullet points and she can paste that in, and it would make sense for them to paste that into to that part too about the Verizon letter.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't think we need to mention it because it's already going to be a separate piece.
Just from past experience with other organizations, having put little pieces like that, send announcements, etc., to her. If it looks interesting, and they have column inches that need to be filled, she puts Roush on writing a short article on it. So I've been contacted with him about announcements I've put in for Pecasset Village Association, etc., the Pecasset Water Quality, etc.
Yep.
And they've chased us down. So it's a very good vehicle, and it's extremely timely if you can get this out right now.
Well, as soon as we're done, I will get that out. And I will also make a nice header for our minutes and get those off to Maria, whoever it is that I wrote down that I have to send them to.
All right, I'm going to start sharing the minutes then. We're all set with that. Save it. I'm going to send them right after this call.
Awesome.
I mean, the agenda.
And I will tonight. I will update the action tracker and get that out to all of us. I'll also send that to Maria for possible posting as an ancillary or packet item. Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Adjourned.
So Bob, no, I think Bob, what we need to do is put the action tracker on the minutes. That's the way.
The action tracker should be attached when the minutes are submitted as an appendix.
Right. So the action tracker that we went through today, Bob, should go to Wendy,
Yeah.
The one that has the October 5th date on it that we just used. And then Wendy should put that as an addendum to the minutes that get
Okay.
posted.
Okay, that's good.
Send me another copy of that and I will make sure that gets attached.
Okay, I will send that right out.
Okay, thank you.
And the new action I will just send out to the committee and to Anne Marie, just for reference before our next meeting. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. See y'all
Okay,
later.
thank you, folks.
Move
Bye,
to
Bye-bye.
adjourn. Move to adjourn.
I
10:50.
second it.
We don't have we can't even vote on that. We don't have a full quorum here. Okay,
Okay,
thanks,
so
folks.
Right.
thanks.
See y'all
Bye-bye.
later.
Goodbye.